a summer night, three best friends, and a secret so dark it would shatter a family and shock an entire community. This is the story of Skylar Neese, a 16-year-old girl whose life was cut tragically short not by a stranger, but by the two people she trusted most in the world. It's a case that forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about teenage friendships, loyalty, and how quickly love can turn to something deadly. Welcome to the Mystery Docket, where we honor victims by telling their stories with the respect and attention they deserve. Today's case contains discussions of violence and betrayal that may be difficult for some listeners. Skylar Annette Neese was born on February 10, 1996, in Morgantown, West Virginia. She was the beloved only daughter of Dave and Mary Neese, a couple who had waited years to become parents and treasured every moment with their spirited, intelligent daughter. Those who knew Skylar described her as witty, loyal, and fiercely independent. She had a sharp sense of humor that could make anyone laugh, even on their worst days. Skylar loved reading, especially mystery novels, an irony that wouldn't be lost on those who knew her story. She was passionate about animals, dreaming of one day becoming a veterinarian, and had a particular soft spot for rescue dogs. At University High School in Morgantown, Skylar was known for her academic achievement and her close-knit circle of friends. She worked part-time at Wendy's, saving money for college while maintaining honor roll grades. Her parents remember her as responsible beyond her years, someone who rarely broke rules and always kept her word. But like many teenagers, Skylar was also navigating the complicated world of high school friendships. Relationships that seemed unbreakable on the surface but were hiding dangerous fractures underneath. At the center of Skylar's social world were two girls who had been her closest friends since middle school, Rachel Schoaf and Shalia Eddy. The three had been inseparable for years, calling themselves best friends and spending countless hours together both in and out of school. Rachel Schoaf was quiet and studious, known for her academic achievements and her seemingly gentle demeanor. She came from a religious family and was often seen as the more reserved member of their trio. Friends described her as someone who followed rather than led, always eager to please those around her. Shalia Eddy, on the other hand, was more outgoing and confident. She was charismatic in the way that draws people in, with a personality that could be both magnetic and manipulative. Shalia lived with her father and stepmother after her parents' divorce, and some who knew the family described underlying tensions at home. The three girls had grown up together in the tight-knit community of Star City, just outside Morgantown. They shared inside jokes, sleepovers, and what appeared to be genuine affection for one another. Their social media accounts were filled with photos of their adventures together, declarations of friendship, and the typical teenage drama that seems so important at 16. But beneath this surface of teenage normalcy, something darker was brewing. In the months leading up to July 2012, friends and family began noticing subtle changes in the dynamics between the three girls. There were whispered arguments, social media posts that seemed to contain hidden meanings, and a growing tension that none of the adults in their lives fully understood at the time. As junior year progressed, those closest to Skylar began noticing changes in her friendships. While the three girls still appeared close publicly, there were signs that all was not well behind the scenes. Skylar's parents noticed that she seemed more stressed than usual about friend drama. She would come home from school seeming upset but would brush off their concerns, insisting it was just typical teenage problems. Dave and Mary Neese later recalled that Skylar had mentioned feeling like Rachel and Shalia were sometimes excluding her or talking about her behind her back. On social media, careful observers could spot subtle signs of conflict. There were cryptic tweets that seemed directed at specific people, photos where one of the three girls was notably absent, and a general shift in the tone of their online interactions. What had once been constant declarations of friendship became more sporadic and forced. Friends at school reported that Rachel seemed increasingly anxious and withdrawn, while Shalia appeared to be growing more controlling and aggressive in her interactions with the group. There were reports of arguments that would suddenly stop when other people approached, and a sense that the three girls were keeping secrets from everyone around them. Most concerning of all, Skylar had recently discovered something that would prove to be the catalyst for tragedy. She had learned that Rachel and Shalia had been intimate together and had been hiding their relationship from her. In the complex world of teenage emotions, this discovery created feelings of betrayal and exclusion that the two other girls found intolerable. Looking back, these warning signs paint a picture of friendships under extreme stress, but no one could have predicted how deadly that stress would become. On July 5, 2012, what seemed like a typical summer evening quickly became every parent's worst nightmare. Skylar was at home that Thursday night, planning to stay in and relax after working her shift at Wendy's earlier in the day. Around 11 p.m., she received a text message asking if she wanted to sneak out and go for a drive with Rachel and Shalia. It was the kind of spontaneous teenage adventure that Skylar would normally enjoy, a chance to spend time with her best friends during the freedom of summer break. Security footage from her family's apartment complex shows Skylar climbing out of her bedroom window and into Shalia's car at approximately 12:31 a.m. on July 6. She was wearing a pink tank top, white shorts and flip-flops, the casual outfit of someone expecting to return home within a few hours. This grainy surveillance video would be the last time anyone saw Skylar Neese alive. When Skylar's parents woke up the next morning and found her bed empty and her window screen propped against the wall, they initially assumed she had stayed out later than planned and would return soon with a sheepish apology. Skylar was generally responsible and had never disappeared without contact before. But as the hours turned into a full day with no word from their daughter, Dave and Mary Neese knew something was terribly wrong. Skylar's phone went straight to voicemail. She hadn't shown up for her scheduled shift at Wendy's. Most telling of all, she had left behind her makeup and hair straightener. Items that those who knew Skylar understood she would never willingly leave behind for an extended trip. The Neese family contacted local authorities that evening, beginning what would become a months-long nightmare of searching, waiting, and hoping against hope that their daughter would return home safely. The initial police response to Skylar's disappearance was frustratingly slow. Because she was 16 and had technically left home voluntarily through her bedroom window, authorities initially treated the case as a runaway situation rather than a potential abduction or worse. Rachel and Shalia were among the first people interviewed by police, as they were known to be Skylar's closest friends. Both girls told investigators that they had picked Skylar up around midnight to go for a drive, but claimed they had returned her home safely before 1 a.m. They said they had dropped her off at the end of her street and watched her walk toward her apartment complex. This story seemed plausible at first, but it didn't explain why Skylar had never made it back to her bedroom or why she hadn't contacted anyone since that night. As days turned into weeks, both Rachel and Shalia appeared to be cooperating with the search efforts, joining volunteer searches and posting emotional appeals on social media for Skylar to come home. But investigators were beginning to notice inconsistencies in their stories. During separate interviews, Rachel and Shalia would provide slightly different details about that night, small discrepancies that became more significant as the interviews continued. Rachel, in particular, seemed increasingly nervous and emotional during questioning. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source: social media and digital forensics. Investigators discovered that both Rachel and Shalia had been researching topics online that raised red flags, including searches about concealing evidence and police investigation techniques. More damning still, they found evidence that the girls had been planning something in advance, with communications that suggested their midnight drive with Skylar had been premeditated rather than spontaneous. Cell phone data proved crucial to breaking the case open. While the girls claimed they had dropped Skylar off safely, cell tower data showed that their phones had traveled much farther that night than their story suggested. The evidence pointed to a route that led to rural areas outside of Morgantown, areas where someone might go to dispose of evidence. As pressure mounted and evidence continued to contradict their story, the facade of cooperation began to crack. Rachel, who had appeared increasingly distressed since Skylar's disappearance, finally reached her breaking point in December 2012, nearly 6 months after her best friend had vanished. On December 28, 2012, Rachel Schoaf's world, and the careful lies she had been maintaining for months, finally collapsed. Unable to bear the weight of her secret any longer, Rachel asked to speak with authorities and made a confession that would shock everyone who thought they knew these teenage girls. Rachel admitted that she and Shalia had not returned Skylar home safely that July night. Instead, they had driven her to a remote area in Pennsylvania, about an hour from Morgantown. There, in a coordinated attack that they had been planning for months, both girls had stabbed Skylar to death. The motive that Rachel revealed was as senseless as it was heartbreaking. She and Shalia had killed their best friend because they didn't want to be friends with her anymore. The discovery of Rachel and Shalia's intimate relationship had created tension in their trio, and rather than deal with the normal complications of changing teenage friendships, they had chosen murder. Rachel led authorities to Skylar's remains in a wooded area across the Pennsylvania state line. After months of searching, hoping, and praying, Dave and Mary Neese finally had the devastating answer to what had happened to their daughter. The details that emerged during Rachel's confession painted a picture of a carefully premeditated crime. The girls had planned the murder for months, researching methods and locations. They had brought kitchen knives and a shovel to the scene. After killing Skylar, they had buried her body and covered it with branches, then returned home to begin months of lies and false concern. Perhaps most chilling of all was how normal both girls had appeared in the months following the murder. Shalia had maintained her innocence even after Rachel's confession, continuing to participate in search efforts and posting memorial messages about Skylar on social media. The level of deception required to maintain this facade revealed a callousness that shocked everyone who knew them. Rachel Schoaf, who was still a juvenile at the time of the crime, was charged as an adult with first-degree murder. In recognition of her cooperation with authorities and her confession that led to finding Skylar's body, she accepted a plea agreement for second-degree murder and was sentenced to 30 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 15 years. Shalia Eddy maintained her innocence much longer, but the evidence against her was overwhelming. She was eventually arrested and charged with first-degree murder. After initially pleading not guilty, she eventually accepted a plea agreement for first-degree murder and received a sentence of life in prison with the possibility of parole after 15 years. The legal proceedings revealed additional disturbing details about the crime and the girls' mindset. Evidence showed that they had discussed killing Skylar for months before actually carrying out their plan. They had researched murder methods online and had even practiced their alibis. During sentencing, Dave and Mary Neese faced their daughter's killers in court, delivering impact statements that highlighted not only their devastating loss but also the bright future that had been stolen from Skylar. They spoke of their daughter's dreams of becoming a veterinarian, her love of reading, and her kind heart toward animals and people alike. Both Rachel and Shalia are currently serving their sentences in different facilities. Rachel, who showed what appeared to be genuine remorse during the legal proceedings, will be eligible for parole in 2028. Shalia, who maintained her innocence longer and showed less apparent remorse, will also be eligible for parole in 2028. The murder of Skylar Neese sent shockwaves through the community of Morgantown and beyond, forcing everyone to confront uncomfortable questions about the nature of teenage friendships and the warning signs of dangerous behavior. This case highlighted several critical issues that deserve our attention. First, it demonstrated how social media and digital communication can both conceal and reveal the truth about relationships. While the girls maintained a facade of friendship online, careful analysis of their digital footprints revealed the growing tension and planning that preceded the murder. The case also exposed gaps in how missing persons cases are initially handled, particularly when teenagers are involved. The assumption that Skylar was a runaway delayed the investigation and allowed crucial evidence to potentially be lost. This led to changes in how law enforcement approaches similar cases. Perhaps most importantly, Skylar's story serves as a tragic reminder that violence can come from the most unexpected sources. The people who hurt us are often those closest to us, and the warning signs of dangerous relationships aren't always obvious to outside observers. Dave and Mary Neese have worked tirelessly to ensure that their daughter's death was not in vain. They have advocated for legislative changes, including Skylar's Law, which reduces the waiting period before police can issue an Amber Alert for missing children in West Virginia. The Neese family has also worked to keep Skylar's memory alive in positive ways, establishing scholarships in her name and supporting causes related to animal welfare, honoring their daughter's dream of helping animals. They want people to remember Skylar not just as a victim of a senseless crime, but as a young woman with dreams, aspirations, and a loving heart. The betrayal of Skylar Neese by her two closest friends remains one of the most shocking and heartbreaking cases in recent memory. It forces us to confront difficult truths about the complexity of human relationships and the capacity for people we trust to cause us harm. This case serves as a reminder to pay attention to the relationships in our lives and the lives of those we care about. Warning signs of toxic friendships can include increasing secrecy, exclusion from group activities, dramatic shifts in behavior, and friends who seem to be keeping significant secrets from each other. For parents, Skylar's story highlights the importance of maintaining open communication with teenagers about their friendships and social dynamics. While normal teenage drama is common and usually harmless, extreme changes in behavior or relationships warrant closer attention and support. If you or someone you know is struggling with toxic friendships, manipulation, or feeling unsafe in any relationship, please reach out to a trusted adult, counselor, or call a crisis helpline. You deserve relationships that are built on genuine care and respect, not control or manipulation. Skylar Neese was 16 years old when her life was cut short by the people she trusted most. She deserved to grow up, to pursue her dreams of helping animals, to experience all the joys and challenges that life had to offer. While we cannot bring her back, we can honor her memory by learning from her story and working to prevent similar tragedies. Thank you for joining me on the Mystery Docket as we remembered Skylar's life and examined this difficult case. If you found this story important, please consider sharing it to help keep Skylar's memory alive and to spread awareness about the warning signs we discussed today. What are your thoughts about this case? How can we better support young people navigating complex friendships? Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. And remember, every victim deserves to be remembered as more than just their tragedy. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Disclaimer: this video is for educational and documentary purposes only. All information is based on publicly available sources. While every effort has been made to ensure accuracy, I cannot guarantee that every detail is fully complete or error-free. Viewers are encouraged to do their own research. I am not responsible for any actions taken based on this content.